The nature of the relationship between Thrall and Grom is introduced in the prologue titled Exodus of the Horde. Here we see both differences in their temperaments as well as their closeness, and even though they are not blood-related, this duo exemplifies brotherhood in every other way. Thrall, the leader of the Horde, is portrayed as a thoughtful and composed figure whose aspirations are directed towards the liberation of his people and breaking the cycle of senseless slaughter. Grommash Hellscream, however, embodies different traits. Proud, strong, and confident, this seasoned warrior shows a lack of patience and a pronounced hostility towards humans. As an older orc who witnessed the developments on Draenor, he represents the bearer of traditional orc thinking in the new world, eliminating potential threats before they have the chance to develop. Given this fact, Grom is inherently an enemy of the new and the unknown. This should not be understood in a simplistic good versus evil dichotomy. Hellscream is not a villain, but rather thinks and acts in a specific way, certainly with the goal of improving the orcish situation, not enslaving them. Now, in the mythological depiction of reality, the eternally unknown, that is, nature, creative and destructive, the source and outcome of all transient phenomena, is generally ascribed an effectively ambivalent feminine character. On the other hand, the internally known, that is, culture, defined territory, tyrannical and protective, predictable, disciplined and restrictive, the accumulated results of heroic and exploratory behavior, is typically considered masculine. Finally, the eternal knower, the process that mediates between the known and the unknown, is depicted as a hero who replaces disorder and confusion with order and security. The main attribute of both the mother and the father, just like that of the serpent, is ambivalence. Thus, the mother represents the origin and conditions of life. She is a benevolent force that creates and provides a source of the new, but she is also a destructive power, a dark forest full of beasts, a storm that devastates and scares. It is therefore no coincidence that we primarily see the Night Elves as women, supreme and ruthless warriors who seek to destroy the orcs and their settlements, but also as protectors and restorers of the forest, which is essential to the orcs for organizing their communities and enabling life in the new world. On the other hand, the father represents protective culture, created and tested patterns that ensure our survival when we are too weak to create and test them ourselves. But he is also a totalitarian state which cruelly and unjustly rules its territory, suppressing and destroying any sign of disobedience and diversity. Again, it is not surprising that we see the orcs as a community of men, fearless and muscular warriors who take care of tradition, even if it involves cycles of destruction and conflict with humans. Grom is the primary embodiment of this. Thrall ultimately serves as a bridge between these two worlds. He is the savior hero, the god of thunder, and a visionary who descends into the underworld in search of prophecy. He embodies the process that transforms the chaos and confusion brought about by crossing the ocean, an archetypal representation of insecurity, uncertainty, and latent chaos, into order and safety, finding a land the orcs can call their own and erecting a monumental city to protect them in that land. He names the land Durotar and the city Orgrimmar in honor of the duo mentioned earlier, symbolism of which we'll cover later. However, in the interest of truth, it's worth adding a slight amendment here. So far, I have presented Thrall as the hero-savior, which he undoubtedly is. However, when viewed at a higher level of abstraction, this role represents just one aspect of the archetypal dual-natured son. Just as the mother and the father have different manifestations, the son can appear as a hero but also as his sworn enemy, arrogant and cunning. If we turn to the interpretation of Christian tradition, it would not surprise us that Jesus and Satan are seen as two manifestations of this archetype. Guided by this, we can say that such a division in Warcraft is manifested by Thrall and Gul'dan. Both are shamans, both leaders of the Horde, both mediators between the force of the unknown and the traditional structure of the community, yet one leads to downfall and the other to salvation. Now, the absence of the hero serves as a catalyst for the fall or the return of pre-cosmogonic chaos. Since the hero is the process that transforms chaos into order but also brings a breath of novelty into the rigidity of order, his removal from the equation necessarily leads to imbalance. This is exactly what happens in the New World twice, but with different consequences. In the first situation, the treacherous waters that separate the continents did their part, leaving the orcs scattered along the shores of Kalimdor. This turn of events leads to two separate experiences during the first encounter with the unknown world: exploratory and traditionalist, or Thralls and Groms, allowing us to glimpse the potential for further development of the orcish fate expressed through the personalities of these actors. In the second situation, the Farseer consciously sets out in search of the Oracle, leaving the management and construction of the base to Hellscream, which provides us with further elaboration of the consequences of the choices made in the first situation. We will address this case in a separate chapter and focus here on the first plot and its outcomes. The shipwreck survivors who ended up under Thrall's command after the disaster set out along the coast in search of surviving comrades, entering into interaction or conflict with the races they encountered in the expanses of unexplored land. During this process, they come into contact with the Tauren who were trying to defend themselves from the Centaur onslaught. Through the character of Cairn Bloodhoof and the Earth Mother cult, we get the first hint of the Great Mother. Of course, since we previously defined her as the unknown, the creative, and the destructive force, we can say that the entire new environment from the orcs' perspective is her manifestation. However, this can also be said to some extent from the Tauren's perspective, where the Centaur, as a nomadic and destructive force, represent her negative aspect that's bent on their destruction, while the land and the Kodo beasts provide them with life. But our focus remains firmly on the orcs. Thus, I believe that mentioning of the Earth Mother as well as Cairn's wise words inspired by his faith in her should be interpreted as part of Thrall's learning and realization. His growing awareness of the creative aspects of the New World, the nurturing force he encounters by interacting with the Tauren, helping them defend against attacks and finding a new home. In return, Cairn, as a mediator and a sage, reveals both the threat of the Centaur charge and the blessing of the Kodo's strength. He is the mechanism by which the process of direct interaction with the new is shaped into an abstract narrative, merging immediate and superficial personal experience with the indirect yet accumulated multi-generational experience of foreigners. By reflecting on the elements of reality in which the orcs find themselves, the Tauren chieftain makes a distinction between the creative, life-giving aspects of the Great Mother and her destructive, murderous side. Along with this, Thrall gains information about the Oracle, learning through legends about its nature.
Legends say that it saw the strands of fate as they were woven by the Earth Mother.
These events in Kalimdor tell us that the positive aspect of the unknown is something that engages those who are willing. On the other hand, it later shows that encountering the Great Mother is unavoidable, and her negative face will inevitably reveal itself to the unwilling. It's just a matter of time before it happens. In any case, due to his unique life experience, Thrall combines the adaptive knowledge of humans, orcs, trolls, and Tauren, making him exceptionally equipped to deal with life's challenges while remaining open to new experiences. Grom's path, on the other hand, significantly diverges from this. We only learn about his actions in the New World when Goel, with parts of the Horde, stumbles upon the Warsong clan in a clear conflict with humans. After helping them, Thrall demands an explanation and learns that the remnants of the Alliance, led by Jaina Proudmoore, have arrived and set up camp at the mountain passes. Not knowing why the humans appeared in Kalimdor, Thrall orders that no conflict with them should occur until further notice and decides to use zeppelins to bypass the fortifications they have built. Grom reluctantly accepts this order, but only briefly. Soon after, he and the Warsong clan engage in battle with the enemy directly defying the warchief's command. Regardless of what led to this, we see that Grom embodies a continuation of the traditions brought from the old continent. Not only does he fail to seek out an understanding of the new environment, but he also shows no curiosity about the reasons for the humans' appearance in these unfamiliar lands. And although they provide a framework for initial organization in new circumstances, old patterns are insufficient for long-term survival. The mere fact that they had to leave their previous home and risk crossing the ocean testifies to the serious trouble that has arisen, making it necessary to reassess the traditional hierarchy of values. Therefore, the question that arises is quite simple. How can someone who finds themselves in unfamiliar circumstances, not knowing where they are going, or more precisely, where they need to go, know how to get there? Let us cite a passage from Peterson's book. Arrogant, prideful individuals presume they know who and what is important. This makes them too haughty to pay attention when they are in trouble, too haughty in particular to attend to those things of people whom they habitually hold in contempt. This is precisely the purpose of the image of the elder brother in myths and fairy tales, and it is exactly what Grom represents. The elder brother, guardian of tradition, embodiment of heroism from a bygone era, rejects change and displays arrogance, unaware of the dangers that surround it. Seeing Thrall's intention to bypass the humans, Grom gives voice to the spirits of the past.
A true warrior would simply take the past from the humans.
Naturally, this comment, along with the actions taken, stirs Thrall's anger, but it is in this part of the game that the elder brother in Grom ignites, indirectly questioning Thrall's leadership and foreshadowing the evil that is approaching.
Don't lecture me, pup. The wretches deserved death. Don't you feel it, Thrall? It's like the old days. Like the demons are near.
Unable to understand Grom's comments and attempting to avoid further conflicts due to his hot temper, Thrall orders the Warsong clan to head north through the forests and prepare a settlement. This interaction is of great importance to us for two reasons. First, it clearly shows that Hellscream is not a typical villain obsessed with his interests and a desire for power. He is a character burdened by the demons of the past, making serious efforts to deal with them, even apologizing to the warchief. However, despite the effort, positive outcome is not guaranteed, and old habits die hard. On the other hand, it becomes evident that Thrall is not an omnipotent visionary. He cannot foresee what the consequences of their separation might be, and by making this decision, he sets the stage for the splitting of the Horde. This division creates space for the manifestation of the consequences of opposing approaches to the unknown, as well as the imbalance that arises from the voluntary departure of the hero savior. However, it is a necessary step towards establishing a new equilibrium. Yet the particular charm of the Orcish story in Kalimdor lies in the fact that the bearers of tradition, convinced of their absolute knowledge, do not have the privilege of waiting for the hero's return. Instead, their seemingly routine endeavor quickly turns into a struggle for survival. As we mentioned earlier, the Great Mother does not care whether you are willing or unwilling. Her destructive aspect will manifest sooner or later, and as we will see, in the absence of a mediating process, the aggression of the Great Mother awakens the aggression of the Great Father, and vice versa.